Hi, this is Dr. Cruz Peterson. Welcome to the lecture on mindful audience in early modern Spain. For this lesson, I want you to pay close attention to the description of the diverse roles audience members play. Theater was not only about watching the performance, it was about being in the space, where the playgoer became an active participant, actively engaging in the events on and off stage. At times, windows gave way to free or unauthorized viewing by servants or young people who would climb through the windows to the rooftop for a bird's eye view of the comedias. Therefore, individual owners added grills to windows in order to prevent illicit entry into the corrales. Others added windows in chambers in an effort to accommodate more paying viewers from their house. The women who sat in the cazuela, having full view of the actors on stage, exercised somatic control by voicing their disapprovals and by banging their keys against the railings or throwing lemon peels at the performers, regardless of social norms that advocated the practice of passive behavior from women. Regarding women's behavior, for example, Fray Luis de Leon in The Perfect Wife insisted that as a norm, women must always practice silence, and Juan Luis Vives, in The Education of a Christian Woman, believed that it is not shameful for a woman to be silent. Therefore, as Melvina McKendrick points out, and I quote, women who went to the theaters, particularly those who sat in the cazuelas, and women who acted in them, were laying claim to a degree of unsupervised freedom that released them from the traditional polarized categories of virtuous woman: silent, reticent, passive, housebound, and whore. In other words, the parameters of the entire Playhouse permitted a change in status or ambiguous zone in terms of behavior and decor, which can be found in the three dimensions of pragmatic somesthetics: representational, experiential, and performative. Similar to the women in the cazuela, the mosqueteros or groundlings in the pit had a front view of the stage, giving them a better view to the comedias than most of those from the upper class. This allowed them freedom to express their likes and dislikes more directly with the actors, just like the women, exerting a sense of control over the plays. Important in attracting the popular class, the corral's most loyal patronage. Like the women in the cazuela, the mosqueteros expressed their approval for a play with loud cheers and applause, disapproval with equal enthusiasm, hurling insults, rotten fruit, and any other objects on hand at the actors. Contrary to the pit and the cazuela, the boxes for the royal and noble classes, located in the buildings framing the sides of the stage, had a limited view of the actors. The aposentos faced each other as opposed to the stage, making it difficult, either visually or orally, to follow the play. As the theater's popularity grew, owners converted the attic space on the fourth floor of the buildings to theater boxes called desvanes for additional observation space for audience members from various social classes, reflecting the changing society. The interdependence of all the parts composing the theatrical space not only inspired actors, but also played a role in the engagement of the members of the audience, enhancing their individual perceptions of the presentations. The eclectic group of spectators that attended the performances responded in a variety of ways to the theater by embodying the performances in the physical space of the corral. A representational aspect of theater can be found in the actor's costume and gestural movements, which captured the spectator's eye. At a time when treatises of behavior and dress code prescriptions were emphasized for common citizens' social decorum, it was also a matter of importance on stage. Juan Ferrer, a theater critic, witnessed how women wore expensive outfits or accessories, such as these painted and embroidered shoes. Women also learned to apply stage makeup that not only mirrored the aristocratic women, but also enhanced or changed their appearance. An anonymous writer in 1620 observed how well women on stage dressed and fixed their hair and makeup. And another observer, José Alcázar, observed how women in general, Spanish women, colored their faces with certain ointments in order to cover blemishes or even wrinkles. Alonso López Pinciano established early in his treatise on the process of acting that after considering the social state of the character, you should also consider the age, because clearly the movement and attire or dress of a princess, different than that of a servant, as well as that of a young person, is different than that of an elder. In 1690, José Alcázar reiterated the same counsel. For costume, he said, one should consider property and wealth. Therefore, costume and stage makeup received special attention. This, in turn, encouraged extravagant spending habits in regards to costumes by actors, and emboldened by performers' attire, spectators attended the theater well-dressed or lucidas, as Juan de Zapata would say, as well. Another important component of the Playhouse's representational aesthetic experience was the refreshment booth called alojeria or alojero, which sold fruit, wine, and aloja, a mixture of honey, spices, and water. Spectators used the food and drinks bought from the concession stands as props to represent a certain style. The drinks, as well as the fruit and snacks, served as a visual signifier of one's place in the social order. For example, in hopes of making an impression, young men would often send sweet snacks, such as peaches, to women sitting in the cazuela. Scholar Jody Campbell underscores the important role food plays in the social settings, writing that food works as a display of power and as performance of elite identity. In fact, nobles went through great lengths to defend the elite status of specific foods, having the courts add certain city regulations to sort food by social categories. According to Campbell, fruit was informally a luxury item, especially for rare fruits such as peaches. Hence, offering a young lady a peach at the theater may have served as a symbol of their financial success. In conjunction with representational, many spectators practiced experiential somesthetics by connecting the olfactory senses and gastronomic experience to the sweet smell of fruit, snacks, and such as peaches, wine, and aloja permeated the playhouse. Similarly, the unique smells and designs of the homes linked to the playhouses were carried into the boxes, as in those owned by the Condesa de Grajal, where historians found some 12 paintings and some billiard cues inside 6 of her aposentos. In addition to the physical consumption of spiced water, wine, and food produced a synesthesia of taste, which in turn became associated with the theater experience. For example, some of the beverages produced an intoxicating pleasure in many of the playgoers, which occasionally led to brawls in the corrales. The sensorial stimuli from the beverages and condiments also offered an escape from the spectators' daily routines. In early modern theater, Spanish actresses emerged as forceful spokeswomen. McKendrick writes, "The words they spoke revealed what it was like to be a woman, and specifically what it was like to be a woman in a man's world." The words and actions of these actresses would have resonated with the women spectators who learned to articulate similar meanings in their daily contact with others. Consequently, the actors acted as agents whose actions and articulation enhanced the spectator's aesthetic experience. According to William Edgington, spectators put on airs as well as noble clothing to come to the theater, a place where they could exercise an importance and power which they desired and identified with, but to which they had no access in everyday life. In this way, the gestural, verbal, and sartorial codes that the audience learned so well in order to project an alternative reality on the screen of the stage became equally an integral part of everyday personal interaction. This example highlights how the theater's teachings and doctrines influenced the spectator's somatic awareness. In brief, far from a passive mirror, the theater is an active relationship between actor and audience. The audience emphatically observes another individual's movements, which, according to Dr. Schusterman, then stimulates, and I quote, "not only areas of the brain similar to those involved in the movement itself, but also to activate muscular and other physiological responses related to such a movement or action," as witnessed by an anonymous writer in 1620 who describes his experience as a continual battery to his soul, attacking all the senses. Consequently, the somatic action of mosqueteros and the women in the cazuela were more than a result of play acting. These spectators experienced a body-mind aesthetic inherent to pragmatic somaesthetics. Their sense of truth in what they were doing was enhanced by the natural setting of the corral that granted equal access to those of noble class and those who aspired to it, adding to the audience members' embodied experience, which was as diverse as the spectators themselves.